Meghan Markle's latest podcast venture has spectacularly dropped out of the streaming charts just weeks after hitting the airwaves. Meghan Markle, so her new podcast series, Confessions of a Female Founder, has failed to burn up the streaming charts. How bad is it? How bad is it really?
So listen, Meghan tried to walk into this big Hollywood Emmy party without an invite, thinking she would shine, but people booed her right there on camera. And instead of being the star, she ended up as the awkward moment everyone gossiped about later.
This is pretty bad, Gab. I mean, this show was a multi-million-dollar production. This was what she signed up with Lemonada Media for. Came out last month, the first batch of episodes, and it's just been a complete flop.
So Meghan shows up to this Emmy event full of real stars and legends thinking she could still make an impact, but instead she got boos and eye rolls, and insiders even claimed producers cut her out of all coverage. And what should have been her moment just turned into another story of how badly she misread the room.
This week, it's out of the top 100 completely. So basically, in a span of a few weeks, the show has completely disappeared without a trace. I think this is a massive PR disaster for Meghan. She chose to interview.
Meghan walked in thinking her presence alone would wow everyone, but instead people whispered she was desperate. No smiles, no claps, just cold looks and then boos, and that is how her big Emmy crash turned into a complete disaster.
Of high-profile women that have built successful businesses, and she got some great people. The woman that created Bumble, all different types of business people, but it never rang true because she's not a business person, Gab. She married a member of the royal family, and then they left the royal family and they made a buck, selling some secrets.
So get this, Meghan was never on the guest list. No RSVP, no heads up, nothing yet. Around 8, she suddenly slipped in through a side door, all smiles, with 2 people in black suits making it look super official, and the whole place went into chaos with staff whispering in earpieces, security rushing, and PR checking tablets trying to figure out how she even got inside when she was clearly not supposed to be there.
And so I think on that level alone, it doesn't really work. And I think with podcasting, unlike with Netflix, it's not enough just to have this sort of surfacey stuff.
Of course.
When you want people to tune in every week and listen for 40 minutes, I think it needs a bit of substance, and this show had no substance.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Meghan didn't just wander in by mistake. She actually planned it, hoping to spark buzz and make people talk about her again, but the gamble failed because Hollywood no longer sees her as relevant, and the Emmy night was about true talent and real achievement, while Meghan had no role in any of it, which only made her appearance feel awkward and out of place.
And Louise, on that post-royal life, a little bit of confused messaging this week over the future of As Ever. Is it being put on hold? Is it launching new products? What's actually going on?
Well, who knows? I don't think even Meghan knows what her so-called lifestyle brand is doing. As Ever, of course, which used to be.
Meghan really had no place at that event, but she strutted in like the main act, and the moment she stepped across the ballroom, the vibe shifted fast. People avoided her eyes. Some turned their backs. A few gasped, and then the crowd reacted with clear disapproval, leaving her standing there in the middle of Hollywood power players looking more out of place than ever.
In the last week alone, we've been told that there's new products coming on Instagram. I mean, I'm thinking maybe it might be honey, given there's been so much footage and social media narrative about her beekeeping, and so you even see Lilibet, obviously disguised in a suit.
At first, it was just a few low groans, like people trying to hold it in, but the moment Meghan kept moving across the room, it turned into full-blown boos, echoing from every corner, raw and sharp, the kind of sound that usually only happens when someone has truly worn out their welcome. And for Meghan, who once enjoyed royal attention and Hollywood buzz, it was nothing short of a crushing fall. The crowd wasn't trying to be polite or subtle either. It was direct, like everyone had silently agreed she did not belong there. And the saddest part is, no matter how much she smiled or tried to look confident, it was clear she had no support left in that room.
An interview she did with the magazine in which she said that no, there'll be no new products until 2026. And on the other hand, she's saying she's pausing her lifestyle brand because she's worried that maybe the quality of the stock or the quantity of the stock as well is not up to.
When it became clear Meghan wasn't invited, even security froze, unsure what to do, and in front of Emmy stars and press, she faced the one thing she never expected: raw humiliation as she walked the room hoping for support, but only met cold shoulders and silence.
Of course, she did engender one of those classic marketing techniques by making everything sell out very quickly because there was a real sense of FOMO created, and she only had something like less than 50 jars of jam and they all went at lightning speed, some of which were given away to.
Meghan really really thought she could blend into the Hollywood crowd, but it went the opposite way. Pedro Pascal quietly excused himself and walked off, and even people she had spoken to at past events refused to make eye contact. A blogger described it perfectly, saying she floated through the room like someone desperate to matter while everyone else simply kept moving as if she was invisible, and the rejection was not random, it was deliberate because nobody wanted to risk a photo or headline linking their name to hers in an industry where being seen together is read as approval that had become a liability, and Meghan had turned into the one person everyone avoided because being connected to her meant bad optics and unwanted drama.
It's an absolute muddle. I mean, she's playing at being an entrepreneur. Clearly, she should have got a proper CEO or entrepreneur in charge of the business, and she may not have found herself in this mess, but I don't believe she was able to find the right person.
When Meghan walked in, the mood shifted instantly. People quietly turned away, and one witness said it was so awkward nobody even dared to laugh. It was just heavy secondhand embarrassment. The Emmy night that was supposed to shine with glamour and celebration suddenly felt uncomfortable and strange, like everyone was watching a clash between image and reality was winning fast. Then word spread to staff and security, who rushed to figure out what was happening, because normally high-profile arrivals are carefully cleared with reps logged in systems and perfectly planned. But Meghan had slipped in with none of that. No check, no clearance, no confirmation, and instead of being treated like a star, she looked like a gatecrasher, and the room made it very clear they wished she had never walked through those doors.
Bronte, on a more fun side, and obviously it was Lilibet's birthday this week, the Sussexes were off to Disneyland for the week. Can you tell us about the trip? Anything notable about it?
Well, yes. I mean, I feel like we were all quite captivated by that birthing video, but it was in fact Lilibet's birthday.
People working the event were so confused that someone even radioed asking if Meghan should be escorted out, and for a moment there was real panic because by then she was already halfway across the room, and with phones recording every move, dragging her out would have turned into a viral disaster. So instead they went for damage control and quietly kept her away from the spotlight. She was moved toward the back near the exit, far from the stage, and the camera's reports say she was given a simple glass of water. Not champagne, no photos, no interviews, no introductions to big names. It was like she was technically in the room, but treated as if she wasn't really there. And the saddest part was how obvious it felt, because this was someone who once had every camera chasing her, and now she was just sitting off to the side, completely ignored, like she had already been written out of the story.
I did enjoy 2 days, as Meghan posted on Instagram, 2 days at Disneyland, and then she posted a whole video which included footage of them running around the place and going on rides, all wearing their Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse ears, and also meeting Elsa from Frozen. It's quite a cute video. Interestingly, she has included some pictures in there of the two children front on, but then she's put emojis over their face because, as we know,
It was the kind of message that looked polite on the surface, but cut deep underneath, like saying, you don't belong here, but we'll let you sit quietly. So no headlines explode about throwing you out. And the fallout from Meghan crashing the HBO Max Emmy nominee event wasn't just awkward, it was a turning point because Hollywood stopped pretending she still mattered. Usually these glamorous nights are wrapped in careful smiles and staged optics, but this time the mask slipped and the rejection was raw and undeniable, and no glossy Netflix project can undo the damage, because when Meghan walked into that ballroom, she might have thought it was the start of her comeback, but everyone else saw it as the proof that her place in Hollywood was already gone.
Since then, she is keeping it sort of partially obscured, but they seem to have a really nice time in Disneyland. Again, I was reminded of the fact she's an influencer now because it was the thank you Disneyland for having us post. Something that was very interesting about it was I wondered how they managed to do 2 days there without shutting down the park and without having people taking.
When Meghan finally walked out through the side corridor, it wasn't with cameras flashing or reporters calling her name. It was with silence, stiff faces, and an energy so cold it was impossible to miss. And that silence said everything, because this wasn't about a single rumor or some failed project. This was about her being rejected as a person, and in Hollywood, where attention means survival, being completely ignored is the harshest punishment. She wasn't mentioned in any post-event press release. Her name was missing from the official lists, and while a few guests captured her on shaky phone videos, the official Emmy highlight reels acted like she had never been there at all, and that erasure stings more than booze because it shows the industry doesn't just dislike her, they no longer see her at all.
The public, but there are reports that they got a special sort of celebrity VIP package, which is offered to high-profile guests, which sees them sort of driven around backstage and also given the cast entrances and exits so that they're not in the public space as much. And also it appears that the kids may have had their little cute Mickey and Minnie Mouse ears on.
A PR manager tied to one of the nominated shows explained that the decision came down almost instantly. Once Meghan appeared, HBO's directive was crystal clear. She was not on the guest list and she would not appear in any edit, and this was no simple oversight. It was an intentional, calculated choice made in the very hours following the chaos to make sure her surprise arrival didn't take away from the actual stars. The Emmy nominees who had worked for years to earn that spotlight the whole point of the night, and while the show rolled on flawlessly behind the scenes, the chatter was all about how Meghan's team had scrambled to salvage the situation by quietly submitting staged photos to wire services the next morning, trying to slip them into circulation as if she had been part of the celebration all along, but it didn't work. The directive from the top was firm. Her name was not to be mentioned, her face would not be included, and her presence would be erased from official coverage altogether. She wasn't in the highlight reels, she wasn't in the sizzle clips, she wasn't even listed in post-event press releases, and that kind of erasure in Hollywood carries a brutal weight because it signals that you are no longer seen as part of the circle. And for Meghan, who once commanded cameras and headlines, that silence spoke louder than any scandal could ever do.
Were wearing glasses, so that would have kept their privacy a little bit further. But yes, that was how they celebrated Lilibet's birthday. We don't know how Archie's birthdays have been celebrated. We've gone really big for Lily's 4th, but it does seem to be the first time we're actually getting a real glimpse into how the Sussexes celebrate their kids' birthday.
To my next question, Louise, we've seen some photos that we haven't been released before. We're definitely seeing more of the kids in recent months. Obviously very tightly managed, and look, I have no objection. I mean, they're very little kids, and I know they've been very protective of their kids in the past, and still to an extent.
Thing is, none of the major image licensing agencies picked up her staged photos, and that fact alone speaks volumes about how completely the situation unfolded, because Meghan has spent years since leaving the royal family meticulously crafting and controlling her public image with polished interviews, carefully timed press releases, and highly managed appearances where she could speak freely without interruption or contradiction. But at the HBO Emmy celebration, all of that control completely fell apart. She had no grip on the narrative, no power to manage the optics, and the event was entirely dominated by the people who had legitimately earned their place in that room. Her total absence from official coverage sent a brutally clear and unmistakable message that no matter how much she tried to stage her presence or force herself into the spotlight, she simply did not belong there. And in Hollywood, that kind of deliberate erasure is far more powerful and lasting than any scandal or negative headline could ever be. It signals to everyone in the industry that she is no longer part of the story, and Meghan's failed attempt that night permanently cemented that reality in the eyes of both the insiders who witnessed the event firsthand and the wider public who watched from afar, making it one of the most defining and humiliating moments of her post-royal career, showing just how far removed she had become from the world she once hoped to dominate. Don't miss a single update from Hollywood and beyond. Stay tuned with Jacob Reports, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're always first to know what's really happening.